Hi, Keith here from Academy of Bass. Today I'm looking at why funk bass is so damn funky. I have done a lesson before where I look at the secret sauce of funk and how to create funk bass lines. So I'll post a link to that lesson either on screen or in the description below. If you haven't seen that, you might want to check it out. But back to this lesson and why funk bass is so funky. Well, for me, this is as funky as anything. Now stay with me because I know that might not have sounded too funky to you, but I had all of this going on in my head. Let me know in the comments if you think that sounds funky and also what your favourite funk bass line is too. Before I get into this, there's a completely free PDF for this lesson. It's got everything in that I'm going to be looking at, fully notated in both standard notation and tab, and I've included all of the backing tracks that I'm using in this lesson as part of that download. So the link to that's posted below. Feel free to grab a copy. If you do enjoy this lesson, don't forget to like the video and also support what I'm doing here by subscribing to the channel. That absolutely sounds funky and it certainly helped my one note groove out in the funk department, and I'm quickly going to look at what makes it sound funky. Now, I'm not going to duplicate the lesson that I posted a link to, but I am going to pay homage to it because it's really important. So all of this gives us this. So we've got one bar of music where each of the 4 beats has been subdivided into a further 4 beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you can count those in lots of different ways. You can count them 1 E under, 2 E under, 3 E under, 4 E under, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. It really doesn't matter, but for the purpose of this lesson, I'm just going to number them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. And it's these 16 notes that give us a 16th note grouping that help us sound funky. I'm going to start by playing a bass line using all of those 16 notes. That's not particularly funky yet, but I'm going to add some accents to it now. Now we're getting there. The accents that I've added have started to bring the line to life, and all I've done is randomly pick out a handful of those 16 notes. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. But what about this? Now we've got a funk groove, and yes, I could play it like this, or this, or this. But this is the recipe, and all of those variations are just different flavours. How you come up with those different flavours is absolutely the subject for another lesson. By the way, give me a shout out in the comments if you'd like to see a lesson on how to create different types of funk bass lines. Whilst we're heading in the right direction towards a happening funk bass line, we're not quite there yet, and that's because music's like conversation. It needs dialogue and interaction. And if you and I were to have a chat, I might say how's things, you'd say good thanks, I'd follow that up by saying been up to much, and you'd reply, and the conversation would continue and develop, and music is exactly the same. So I'm going to apply those same principles now to this bass line. Now that's happening. It's funky, it's rhythmic, and it's got variation, and it's a very different type of funk bass line to the line that I started with. I played through this 4 times and each pass was very different. This is what I played the first time. So I I started with the same chord motif, G at the 3rd fret of the E string, octave G at the 5th fret of the D string, and then F at the 3rd fret of the D string. From there I slid from G at the 5th fret of the D string all the way up to D at the 12th fret of the D string, and I'm using my little finger because the next two notes are F at the 10th fret of the G string, hammering on to G at the 12th. Then we've got a muted D string and a muted A string, followed by C at the 3rd fret of the A string, and then we hammer on to D at the 5th. The second time I play the shorter answering phrase to that. So again, started with the same chord motif. From there, C at the 3rd fret of the A string, slid into D at the 5th fret, played the octave D at the 7th fret of the G string, and slid that whole shape down 2 frets, 1 tone to C. If that's a little bit tough for you, you can just slide the octave note, whichever's easiest. Now the third time was a contrasting line altogether. Started with the same motif, then we've got this phrase. So open A, B flat hammered on, octave B flat, back down to the B flat root, and then hammer on to C at the 3rd fret. Then we've got an octave F in reverse, so I'm playing 2 muted notes over F at the 3rd fret of the D string, and then an F root note 1st fret of the E string. And the very last time was a completely different type of line. In fact, it was a scale run using the G minor pentatonic scale. Started off from G, 3rd fret of the E string, 2 muted notes on the E string, hammered on from F to G, B flat, C, D, F, G, A, and then finally D. So this bass line is funky, it follows the recipe, but it's got lots of different flavours to it. The backbone of funk is the 16th note subdivision, the accents you play, the techniques you use, the variations you add, and of course the notes that you choose to play give your bass lines their individual character. I hope you've enjoyed this mini Funk Fest. If you have, give me a shout out and let me know in the comments. Don't forget to grab the PDF too, the link to that is posted below, and feel free to like the video and support the channel by subscribing. Thanks for joining me, look forward to seeing you again, and in the meantime, happy practicing.